Hello everyone, I'm John Parks with Digital Farm, and I'm glad to have you back here for another version of our 10 Seconds With segment. Today I am pleased to have with me Evan Carroll. Evan is a digital marketer based here in the Triangle area of North Carolina. I've gotten to know Evan over the last few months. We were actually at an event together. I spoke at an event that he organized called Funnel Fuel, which is part of the Triangle AMA group here in the Raleigh area. And Evan has a tremendous background. It was just fascinating to be able to talk with him about some of the experiences he's had. So I wanted to bring him in as a part of the 10 Minutes With segment so that you could get to know him as well and hear a little bit about some of those experiences. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Evan in. Evan, thanks for joining me. Glad to have you here today.
John, thanks so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Evan, you've been in the digital space for a while. Again, a lot of your work there with Triangle AMA, that's where many people are probably familiar with, having seen you around. But tell us a little bit about how you got into the digital marketing space. What's your journey been like?
We know the funny thing is that coming out of school, I didn't think I wanted to be in the digital marketing space. My academic background is in information science, which is more sort of the study of how people interact with digital technology, and marketing was just one application of that. And so I started my career at Capstrat all the way from a user experience design intern, and then by the time I left there, I was a lead account planner, and more recently I've gone to Channel Advisor to be a user experience designer there, more focused on building our software that marketers use instead of doing marketing myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been an interesting ride, and ultimately what drives me is the idea that we can create a digital experience that creates this relationship between a brand and a consumer in a way that we couldn't do before we had the internet, before we had such rich digital technology. And I really make my career about how we connect people and technology together, going right back to my information science background. So I guess I didn't land too far away from my target there, John.
That's great. It's interesting that you mentioned about maybe not necessarily planning to go into this space. I think that's kind of a common refrain. A lot of people that I speak to, myself included, have sort of had that circuitous route of getting here. But it's interesting how we come back and still apply some of those things that we learned maybe from our days in undergrad or beyond, and then even some of the work experiences we've had. So it sounds like it's been a great journey for you. One of the things that I've really been interested in is your work with something called the Digital Beyond. And rather than me try to introduce that and explain what that is, how about if you give us just a very quick nutshell of what that project is, how that came to be, and maybe where things are today with it.
Sure. Well, the Digital Beyond really came as a spin out of something we did at Capstrat. Myself and a colleague of mine, John Urbano, we were working on figuring out what would be the next thing on the internet, what would be the next digital challenge that people would face, and we came around this topic that we called the digital afterlife. And it's less about marketing and more about, as we continue to live our lives online, we bank online, our personal interactions are online, our social media obviously is online. We're at the point where we're living so much of our lives online that we're almost creating more of our personal memories and mementos digitally than we are in tangible form. So we started presenting about this topic, and it became one that people were actually very interested in. So we started the Digital Beyond as a blog and think tank where we kept up with that effort, and later, through success of that, have been in all sorts of media, news media, television, radio. We published this nice book behind me, Your Digital Afterlife, and it's been a nice ride. And I think it goes back to that theme I mentioned earlier in my career, that it's about, I'm interested in those areas where people and digital interacting. If that means they're interacting with an event that I put on with the Triangle AMA, if that means they're interacting with software that I build, or if they're interacting with their personal memories, that's sort of where my sweet spot is and what I enjoy thinking about.
Right. Wow, that's great. What are some of those things, though, that you found as you've gone around and have talked about this topic that maybe people are just unaware of about their digital presence online and what happens to them, as after they die or after they move on? Certainly, a number of people have actually just quit the web altogether. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those stories. But
I am.
What do those pieces do? Where do they go? What are some of the things that people are starting to think about now that you're finding?
So that's actually a really big question, and one of the reasons that we started this effort is because it's not really certain what might happen. So basically, if you choose to not take an active role in what we call your digital afterlife and planning for it, you're basically agreeing to let whatever might happen happen. So you're leaving it up to chance. The chances are good that the thing you don't want to happen is the one that will actually happen. So what we're seeing is that all sorts of people are attacking this issue. From we have services who help you plan your digital afterlife, things you can buy, or some that are for free. You have laws that are getting enacted around this. We also have estate planners who are working to sort of put this information into wills as well. So it's a very interesting time. But I think the thing that shocks people the most is their first reaction is, oh, well, I don't need to think about that. I don't have anything digital that's of importance. And when you start talking about your photographs and your email, suddenly they start to realize, oh, there is something here. I do need to think about what happens to this, and that's sort of what gets that conversation started. So it's definitely something that not a lot of people are thinking about. Certainly more people are thinking about it now than they were 5 years ago when I got started in that space. But it's something that's coming around to be more mainstream and something that people are thinking about more often. And as I like to tell folks, my goal would be that you don't need someone out there like me banging this drum in 10 years, that it's just the way things are. It's part of our socially accepted processes and our legal processes, and we don't really have to think about it separately.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It is a topic that we're starting to think of a little bit more. Tell me one thing: how is mobile changing that conversation? What's going on there? Because we know that mobile is beginning to really overtake the dominant platform that we use. We're moving away from PCs, away from desktops, even away from laptops, and more toward mobile devices, which then opens up a whole new plethora of services. How is that changing the game?
Well, so that's interesting because I feel like mobile is one of the most fascinating parts of marketing and technology in general, and I often speak about mobile marketing specifically. And the thing that we are realizing is that, and we've known this for a long time, that humans love instant gratification. Well, what we've done with smartphones is we've given humans a device of instant gratification. I can take a photograph, have it posted, published to my friends, and start getting feedback on it almost immediately. So we've become, we're reporting more things that were once ephemeral and we might have skipped over, or we might have just taken a photograph of and held onto in our personal collection. We're sharing them, we're putting it all over the internet, and we're creating much more because we're getting great social feedback from likes and comments that keep us creating. So relating this back to a digital afterlife thing, we have more content now than we've ever had before. And one of the biggest challenges that I believe we'll face in the future as a society is how we deal with all of this content, and how we make sense of it all, and how we continue to see value in content when there's so much of it. You might have one photograph of a great grandfather, and that's very valuable to you. But if you have 10,000 photos of every latte he ever drank, it might not be quite as valuable. So those are some issues that we'll have to work through as a society.
Yeah, that is, again, very interesting topics to think about, and certainly for us to explore. And I commend you for going ahead and taking on that topic. And it sounds like you've had a good bit of success in discussing that in various places around the country. Evan, thanks so much for taking some time here to speak with us today. I certainly want to encourage others to go and check that out. You can see the blog address on the screen to go and read more about the digital beyond. I would love to encourage you to go and learn more about that topic, and certainly follow Evan. He's all over social as well, so Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+, you name it, he's there. So check him out, connect with him, and learn a little bit more. Evan, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us.
John, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
All right, thanks everyone, and if you want to check out more of the 10 Minutes With segments, please do that by visiting the blog here on this page. You can search for it, or you can just look in the category tags as well, and certainly would love to hear your feedback, so use the comment box below. Thanks again for joining us. I'm John Parks with Digital Farm, and thanks again, Evan Carroll, for joining us today.